Hey everyone, and welcome to the Matters podcast. We have an exciting guest today, Justin Govender. I know him firstly as a photographer. I met Justin at a wedding. I was shooting video, and the reason why I stayed in contact with Justin mainly on social media is because when we were shooting the wedding, he didn't get in my way, so I figured, no, he's a good guy. No, that's a joke because there's this thing with weddings, like the photographer and the videographer are always trying to like work around each other. But I remember very clearly from that day, Justin just being, a stand-up guy, having a great attitude, and just doing his work with excellence. And so stayed in contact, and he's a guy that's he's fantastic at his art. I'm a huge fan. I was a bit when he walked in the door, I was shaking a bit there, but starstruck. A bit of a rock star in my opinion. But yeah, Justin, welcome to the Matters podcast.
Thanks, Malcolm. It's big words to live up to. Thank you. I'm glad that was your perception. But it's an honor. Thank you. It's always humbling for your opinion to get asked in any context. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity.
No, of course, man. So it's been a while, but maybe for those that aren't familiar with your amazing work, maybe just tell us who you are, what you do, maybe even beyond the photography. So we can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, that's probably the harder question to ask when people ask you, explain who you are. Like, how do you sum that up? But yeah, my name's Justin, 34 years old, married for 4 years now to my wife, Natasha. So I'm not sure that counts as newlywed anymore, just over that barrier. But yeah, I'm passionate about photography and filmmaking. I have a side or freelance business in doing that I've done for, I think, over a decade now as well. Also have the privilege of having a day job or a full-time career, and I'm the communications director for Hillsong Church across Africa, which is a fun and interesting experience to have ministry and creativity merged together in what you do. But yeah, just passionate about the visual arts, passionate about creatives as a whole and people who, give their energy to producing content. So I love meeting people like that, and I guess why we connected as well, even if something over a wedding. But yeah, hope that explains a little bit about who I am.
For sure. So maybe tell us what you studied and how you got into photography, because if I'm not mistaken, photography is kind of the first thing that you did as a professional.
Yeah. So yeah, my background is actually in IT, so in things related to networking and computers and coding and things like that. So that's kind of what I did at the beginning, or what I studied. Photography was something that was always like those sideline passions. You're not sure if you can make this into something full on. So I taught myself that was just off of like YouTube, as I'm sure for most photographers and creators, is YouTube and finding tutorials, playing around with the camera, and just got good at it from that. So yeah, it was almost like a sideline passion that eventually I turned into something that I enjoy still doing to this day, and fortunate enough to earn money out of it. So it's the goal for most people.
Yeah. And so how long was that journey of, starting from scratch in photography to, I guess, getting to the point where you could, call it something that you're making a living out of?
Yeah, well, I think I'm still on that journey of turning it into something that's being a living. But I think I started probably when I was like 13, 14 years old. The first time you get a camera put into your hands, and it's when it's one of those like credit card size ones, digital cameras that can't really take great pictures, but you get a kick out of seeing something frozen onto pixels or onto a screen. So I remember that, and I guess I'm fortunate to have parents that always encourage you to pursue whatever it is you felt you enjoyed or you're passionate about. So I started when I was young already and just enjoyed taking photos. And I was always that guy at family events taking photos. No one necessarily asked you to do it, but you were doing it. And eventually it got to the point where people start taking notice, and you're like, oh, if you need a photo, they can ask Justin to do it. And you do it kind of just as a young person out of the enjoyment of it, and just because the opportunity's there. And kind of kept doing that, and eventually it gets to the point where people start asking you to take photos at events, and they'll pay you for it. Oh, okay, I didn't know this could be a thing. So, and again, I was self-taught as a photographer, so I just did it because I wanted to learn more. I wanted to get better at it. And the first time I got a DSLR was mind-blowing. You just suddenly realized there's so much more that you can do with a camera. And I just kept doing that. And I guess that's what opened doors of opportunity. The more you kept getting known as someone that took photos or video for that matter, and more people would start asking for different things, whether that was product photography or to cover an event, and eventually start getting into weddings. I would say like a big boost in my photography career and building a business around it was the introduction of Instagram, or just when social media became a thing, because suddenly you had access to this massive world where your stuff was being put out and people had the ability to contact you through it, you know. So like I know people were using Instagram back in the day for photos of their lunch or walks they were taking, but as a photographer you're like, oh, I can use this as an extension of my portfolio. When I started doing that, started to realize, okay, this, like, you just opened up a world of marketing possibilities. And I would say that was a big boost in business, but also just in community, and like finding like-minded creatives through a platform like that. So that was probably a big nudge in taking it forward, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's incredible the way you've used the Instagram platform. Whenever I open your sort of, what do you call it, a page or a profile, I'm just like, you've got such a distinct style. It's so rich and raw and beautiful. Like and that's one of the reasons why I recommend you so easily when someone's looking for a photographer, is because I know that just by opening your Instagram profile, they're already gonna know, okay, I'm like, if I get this guy, we're gonna be okay. Like, it's one of those things. I'm so tempted to go full on into like photography questions here. But maybe the last photography question is like, how did you, and I think we can apply this to the different trades that we find ourselves in, but how did you find your distinct style? Tell us about that process. Did you let it happen? Were you very, was it a choice to go down a certain route? How did you find your
That's a good question. It's a hard one to answer, because I think for anyone, when you're trying to develop your style in whether that's graphic design or photography or video, whatever that is, I would definitely say you probably do it by copying. And I know it sounds bad, but I think any good artist in life steals, to a sense, different avenues of inspiration. And that's definitely for me. Like, I would collect photographers' work or images or paintings even that I felt drawn to, or that I really liked the way the light was used or the way the colors were used. And out of that kind of, you start merging your style into it. And so it's definitely like this drawing on of inspiration from a lot of different places. I felt drawn to movies or cinematic looking style, or just even the use of blues and oranges in the way movies get graded. So that's kind of how I like figured out, okay, I enjoy this, let me find references. And you start developing your style out of that. It's also just playing, like just experimenting for the sake of it. My style has developed a lot and changed a lot throughout the years. I went through a season where I was just off flash photography and that's all I wanted to do, and then went into more like natural lifestyle vibes. So it changes. So giving yourself the space to play and to just try things and to mimic what you see other photographers do, so that out of that you can figure out, I like this or I don't like this, and that kind of like hones you into where you want to be. So for my style, very much I love it to be cinematic storytelling, in a sense that it feels like you captured a moment in that particular event, whatever that is, that tells a story that makes you wonder what happened before that and what's going to happen afterwards. You know? So I enjoy that kind of approach to the way I take photos. So I hope that answers the question.
No, 100%. And I think maybe now that you mentioned that, maybe that's the reason why I'm so drawn to your work, is because I love cinema, and I think that's the experience I get when I look at your work. It's cinematic.
I'm glad to hear that.
And so maybe tell us, because I know you eventually, or at some point, you started doing video and you started dabbling in other things. I'm always seeing you trying new things, which is awesome. What are some of the pros and cons in expanding beyond like your primary trade? In your case, obviously being photography.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm a strong proponent for finding your niche and finding something that is, that you've got clarity around. This is what I do. This is what I offer. Like, you definitely need to do that. And you just need to simplify things for yourself as to what you're pursuing, what you're offering clients, or just what you're doing in life generally. But there's also a power to being able to diversify that and to do more than one thing. And I've always been that kind of person that just enjoys not just one thing. And it's not necessarily out of boredom. It's out of curiosity or wanting to explore other avenues. So I've always been intentional about different avenues of creativity. So as much as I know I'm drawn to photography, I've spent parts of my life learning to code and do website design, or learning to make films, or learning about the video aspect of cameras, or learning graphic design, or copywriting, whatever different avenues of creativity, even into accounting, or going down a financial avenue. So I've taken the time to learn different areas, and I think it just helps you become a well-rounded and relatable
sure.
individual,
Yeah.
which then just helps you also know what you want to focus down on because you've taken the time to explore other areas. So I would definitely encourage people to do. I know there's a power to finding that one thing, but you're only going to find that one thing by trying all the other things as well, which then just helps give focus to what you are trying to do. And that might change in the future. Who knows? I might do something else. But
Keep them guessing.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier on that I was quite I guess impressed by your attitude in that kind of in that the first time I met you in that wedding, because I know specifically with weddings, what do they call them? Bridezillas.
Yes.
I know in the industry you get some very difficult clients. And so, I mean, I know in that particular shoot, we had the client was very nice.
Yeah.
Good friends of mine, actually.
No, they were awesome.
But I can imagine that you hold your own, that you're consistent in that way when you do get the bridezillas and other difficult clients.
Yeah. Mother-in-laws.
Exactly. Yeah, they run the show in the weddings, don't they? So maybe tell us what being professional and managing your attitude with clients looks like in your work, and was it something that you had to tell yourself, well, I need to get better at this? Was it something that came naturally to you? But what's your relationship with that?
No, it's a very good question. I think that's probably more than the service that you offer a individual or a client. It's who you are and the way you do it. So I think that speaks volumes to the kind of business offering that you have. I guess two things for me that are really important when it comes to how I have my relationships with my clients. The first one is responsiveness. I think I've noticed specifically in the entrepreneurial area within South Africa, the ability to answer timeously when you're emailed or you're asked for a quote or you're messaged about something is a big deal. And I think a lot of us sometimes let that fall slightly, unfortunately so, because I can say personally for myself, so much business opportunities that I've got within this sphere was because I was one of the first that actually responded. Wow. And it's not necessarily because I was the best at it. It was just because I actually responded to them, you know. So I think in client relationships, one of the biggest things we need to focus on is just setting the time aside, whatever that looks like for your week or your day, to be able to respond and to just offer whatever they're asking for, and just give the time to that. So I would definitely say responsiveness is a big one, and second to that is just kindness. It's just being a nice person to work with, again, it's we kind of have to always remember or remind ourselves that our business is offering a service to people. It's solving a problem for them, whether that's they need something captured for in the event, or they need a product showcased for photography of that, or whatever that is. You're always solving a problem for your client's sake. 100%. So it's not necessarily just for the internal satisfaction that you get as a content creator. It's because you're offering a service to someone and reminding yourself that you need to be kind and generous in the way that you do it, because that again speaks volumes as to your craft more than just your craft itself. People remember how you made them feel more than what you produced for them. So
good, man. So good. And maybe to bolden that a bit, speak to us about the impact of client relationships on your life, like your personal life, because I can imagine that, especially with photography, you're taking your work home to do your editing, right? What is those relationships have? What impact does it have on your personal life, your mental health? Maybe you can chat through those things and how you managed it.
That's, I don't have an answer for that one, because it's an ongoing journey, and more so I think I learned as I stepped into married life. You realize your time is not your own or only, and needing to segment things of you can't always take your work home with you, and you can't constantly be invested into it, and like you say, the mental strain that it takes as well, because you're constantly giving of yourself, and more so when you're juggling different jobs. It takes a lot out of you. So I don't have a full-on answer to that. I'm learning it as well. I think it's definitely putting boundaries in place as to what your rest time looks like, because work and rest has to have a balance to it. And it's okay that there's seasons when you're hustling hard and you're doing a lot, and you will go through seasons like that. And it's even just finding small moments within a week that you are able to take for yourself and just do what refreshes you. And even if it's an hour in an evening, that you're watching something or reading something. For me, I'm an early bird, so I wake up at like 5-6 a.m. naturally, and then I just enjoy that time to like read stuff or just sometimes stay at the window for no reason, or take a walk, whatever. In summer, obviously not now. But yeah, it's finding those moments within your week, and hopefully you'd want it to be a full 24-hour period that you are actually just resting and refreshing yourself and just enjoying whatever, and it can be non-related to your work. But finding that like those moments in a week, I think is really important, so that when you are giving of yourself, you're giving from a place of fullness and not just constantly being drained. So again, I'm speaking to myself because I need to get better at that. But yeah, it's an important aspect, I feel.
That's awesome. You mentioned work-life balance, and I think time management is a huge part of that. Is that something that I know you said it's a journey and it's a process. Is it something that you've gotten better at? And we always like to get a bit practical on these podcasts. Are there any tools, methods, or systems that you've put in place to kind of that has to do with time management, but that aids your work-life balance? Sense?
I love the practicality of it as well, because I definitely agree with that. And I'm sure everybody's different. For me, because I come from a tech background, or because I'm used to IT, I make software work well for me, because that's what it's there. It's a tool to help you be able to manage your time and to edit and things like that. So I've definitely honed my process down to what I use for to-do lists, and I use lots of different apps for that. Currently, the biggest one I use is called Fantastical. It's an iPhone app, but it's a calendar-driven app. But all my to-dos, all my projects are loaded through there, and I can see when I need to shift things in my calendar, because I'm managing work-life calendar as well as home life, as well as freelance life. So seeing all of it at a glance, which is what that app allows me to do, and move things around when I need to, is really, really helpful, especially when you're trying to manage your time well. It's I guess I just, even with editing, like I've made my editing process, everything saved into presets for particular moments. Like a reception of a wedding has a different look to outdoor nature when you're shooting lifestyle out there, or it's a couple shoot. So I've saved those things into presets to be able to batch process stuff, and then so it's just honing down taking the time to be able to hone down your process and make software work for you. Like I know sometimes it's tedious because not everyone enjoys that part, but taking the time to research, Google it, YouTube it, or whatever you need to do, and just take that time to set that aside. It sets up the rest of your life in this field a lot easier when you do things like that. So it's a few that I use. Hope
no, that's cool. Helpful. That's cool. I'm definitely gonna check that one out. And then with regards to that, did you find that you kind of you saw there was a way to improve, and then you made an effort to improve that one thing, and like you say, make the process better? Or is it more of like a stock take for you? Like you'll get to the end of a project and you'll look back at it and you can be like, and you kind of evaluate the whole thing and be like, okay, how can I improve the whole process? Like, what did you do more specifically?
No, I wish it was that I evaluated at the end. It's honestly because you learn by making mistakes, which I guess is the best way to learn. But it's kind of that, like, in hindsight, realized, I could have done this better. Let me implement a tool that's going to help me not do that next time around.
Right.
So I think you need to just burn your fingers a little bit, and that's how you find the best tools. I wish it was foresight that made me predict in advance what's going to happen, and that's when I implemented things. But no, you need to just get out there and do it, and you can't also perfect your process at the beginning and think, okay, now I'm set up to go and do this. Like, you need to just go and try it, and if you fall over, great, you learn from that. Use a tool that's going to help you or kind of safeguard you against that going forward. So
that's epic, man. Speaking about burning your fingers, I just want to ask you about when you started off as a photographer. Obviously you didn't just become a business person overnight, What was that journey like for you? Because a part of what we do at Jumpstart is enabling people to take the next step, and a lot of the time the businessy side of things, if I can use that term, are the things that make people scared to take the first step. I mean, if you have any advice or encouragement with regards to that, what was that like for you, kind of getting into maybe the boring admin stuff that enables you to actually run a business?
No, that's a brilliant question, because you obviously you have strengths in a certain area, creativity, whatever that is, and you don't necessarily want to have to deal with the mundane or the admin paperwork behind things. And I think exactly what you do at Jumpstart is exactly the solution to that. It's finding community and people with people that have different skill sets to you, and that's what I love about what you're doing with the podcast as well, is bringing this diverse opinion to the entrepreneurship journey,
Yeah.
and realizing that you might not be good at everything, but there are people that are, and drawing on what their strengths are, and plugging yourself into a community, whether that's like clubs or churches or a podcast community, whatever that looks like for you, that's fine. But find people that are different in skill set and different in perception, because that just helps you draw on things that you don't always have to be good at, because you often feel the pressure as an entrepreneur to wear all these hats and do all these things.
Yeah, exactly.
And just a quick Google search will just show you there's a lot of, or even a quick Instagram search will show you there's a lot of people with that kind of skill set that is able to help speak into that. So I would definitely say, just get plugged into, or find a group of people, find a way to connect with others who can help you in that particular aspect that you feel like you're not necessarily good at. And who knows, it might be a mutually beneficial relationship where they do business with you, you do with them, and it works out mutually that way. So it's awesome.
That's epic, man. So what's next for Justin Govender? What are some of your plans going forward? Maybe tell us about that.
I wish I knew exactly. I mean, I think if anything, the pandemic taught you that you don't necessarily know what's coming next. But if I had my way, I think for me, I definitely want to take what I do a lot more internationally. And I know that's like, it's a difficult and it's a big goal, but I think and I've got like things lined up coming ahead of the year of things that I'm able to shoot across borders, which is an amazing opportunity. But just being able to like, not because I think I have what it takes to go internationally, but I think because I want to go and learn what is out there and be able to expand my horizons a bit. So it's just figuring out ways to do that. And I think also just the season of life I'm heading into to be able to create spaces for inputting more into other creatives, because I've learned a lot throughout what I've done, and I've still got a lot to learn. But having platforms to be able to share that. So I think of just figuring out ways to put that into blog or book formats, or into video training, whatever that looks like. But just creating digital space that allows me to be able to share a bit more. I think I haven't done that as intentionally, so that's definitely on my radar, to be able to input a bit more, and just be able to share a bit what I've figured out along the way through, like I said, making mistakes. So I think that's probably what my focus is going to be for the next season ahead.
For sure. There's a lot that we can learn from you. I'm looking forward to
Likewise.
that. And I'm looking forward to you doing some more international stuff. I saw last year that you posted that you were about to do a trip into Africa, and I got so excited because, like, knowing your style, I was like, damn, the images that's gonna come out of this, and you didn't disappoint. Justin, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for asking.
Of course. Where can the listeners find you? Maybe shout out some of your handles there.
Thank you. A shameless self-plug.
Go for it.
But I'm always like keen to connect with people. So you can either reach me on my website at justingovender.com, or on my Instagram handle is justingovender_, and it ends there. So, but I'm very responsive. Like I said, be responsive. Always reply to DMs or anything like that. So feel free to connect. Would love to chat. Start a conversation. But thanks for the opportunity. Love what you guys do, and it's always a privilege to be able to share.
Thanks, appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing how your entrepreneurship journey unfolds.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Cheers.